Hello everyone, welcome to the new lesson, and you are going to one step ahead from the practical data analysis to the inferential data analysis, in other words statistical data analysis. So let's first understand what does statistical analysis hypothesis testing mean. Then you can proceed to the practical statistical data analysis and understand when to use it, how to use it, and how to make some significant insights as per the statistics. Statistical data analysis is very important, and you can say the first priority before building some relationship, building some significant predictive model as for your subject matters, because statistical data analysis provide you some significant interpretation, some patterns, some insight, some relationship among the variables you have in your data that will help you to build a strong predictive model for your subject matters. However, you can see in the screen some basic points regarding statistical analysis. At first, you can see that statistical analysis is a method of some steps. In simple words, the steps are collecting the data you need, organizing those data set, analyzing the data set, interpreting the result you have from your analysis, presenting the information or the analysis in a report, and draw conclusions from your data. However, it also involves using statistical techniques to extract meaningful patterns and insight from numerical information or the numerical data. We can take an example for applying statistical analysis in a situation you think like a school implements a new teaching method in one of its mathematics classes, aiming to improve students performance, right? The school administration is interested in knowing whether the new teaching method has a significant impact on the average exam scores compared to the traditional method. So this is a situation or scenario where you can use the statistical analysis and you can prove whether the current or modern teaching method has the ability to improve the students' capability compared to the traditional teaching method. The goal of statistical analysis is to make inferences about a population based on a sample of data drawn from that population. There is a question that what does mean by inferences about a population based on a sample data, right? Don't worry, you have to understand about population and sample, and then you will be able to easily get the meaning of inferences in this particular sentence or the goal of statistical analysis. So let's proceed to the next thing, the population versus sample. So in this slide, you can see that the population is defined as the all households in the city, and the sample is defined as the 500 randomly selected household. Imagine you are interested in studying the average income of all households in a particular city. The entire set of households in that city represents the population. Every household, from the smallest apartment to the largest mansion, is the part of this population. However, since it might be impractical and time consuming to collect income data from every single household in the city, you decide to take a sample. You randomly select 500 households from different neighborhoods and income brackets. This subset of 500 households represents your sample. So this is a very easy and clear differences between population and sample, and let's proceed to understanding what does inferences mean. To understand what does inferences mean, you have to understand the hypothesis testing. So hypothesis testing is about making some predictions or inferences about a population based on a sample data. Actually testing a hypothesis or claim about a population parameter using sample data, which helps you determine if there is enough evidence to reject a null hypothesis for an alternative hypothesis. Suppose the scenario, a school wants to implement a new teaching method to improve its students' performance. And in this particular scenario, you can generate some claims or some inference or some hypothesis that either the new teaching method has the capability to improve the students' performance, or the new teaching method has no capability to improve the students' performance. So here you can make two kinds of hypotheses, two kinds of inferences, or two kinds of claims as per your scenario, right? So in hypothesis testing, you are going to use your sample data that represents your population data to make the predictions or inference that the hypothesis you made, the new teaching method has the ability to improve students' performance, is true or is false. Or does it work in your population? Does it not work in your population as per the sample data you have? So this is actually means the hypothesis testing or inferencing about population based on a sample data. You can see in the last line of this slide that the hypothesis testing helps determine if there is enough evidence to reject a null hypothesis for an alternative hypothesis. So let's understand what does mean by null and alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis is a statement that there is no significant difference, effect, or relationship in the population. It often represents the status quo or default assumption that there is no change or no effect. Suppose you can bring an example as per our scenario of new teaching method to improve students' performance, where the null hypothesis will be the new teaching method has no significant impact on the average exam scores compared to the traditional method. So let's understand what does alternative hypothesis mean. Okay, unlike the null hypothesis, the alternative hypothesis is a statement that there is a significant difference, effect, or relationship in the population. It often represents the status quo or default assumption that there is a change or an effect. And if you bring the same example for the measuring of capability of new teaching method, in this sense, the alternative hypothesis will be the new teaching method has a significant impact on the average exam scores compared to the traditional method. So that's all about understanding hypothesis testing. And in the next video, you will see some more measurement to practically conduct that hypothesis testing. Thank you.